Welcome friends again to this new lecture on the topic on your screen, public administration in ancient India, particularly with reference to Kautilya's Arthashastra and other sources. So we are going to discuss this very important aspect of ancient knowledge traditions in ancient India, how the different aspects of public administration and the urbanization and the administration at local level or village level or urbanizations. What are the basically sources? So we are going to just take into consideration these certain queries. What is public administration? What are the sources of public administration in ancient India? Then who was Kautilya and what is his place in Indian history? Then what is Arthashastra all about? What is the contribution of Arthashastra in Indian knowledge traditions? And then how Arthashastra deals with public administration and statecraft. So do some other sources deal with public administration too? So this is the main point of discussion that Kautilya, who is popularly known as Chanakya, as well as his real name was Pandit Vishnu Gupta. He was one of the stalwart figures uh, in statecraft and in public administration in ancient Indian traditions of political management, you may say. And he is also one of the ministers, one of the prime ministers of Chandragupta Maurya, who established a kingdom in northern India. So he was the composer of Arthashastra, one of the very prominent books in ancient India that we have discussed in the very first lecture in the literature of Sanskrit. Then here we are concentrating on the subject matter and the content of the Arthashastra. That's the book composed by Kautilya or Chanakya. And what public administration is, what are the sources, and in practical way, what contribution did Kautilya provide us in the form of his composition of Arthashastra. So public administration is basically policy development. It is concerned with policy development, service delivery, human resource management, public financial management, and organizational oversight. It is core of modern welfare state. In modern time, we see that public administration is one of the very important discipline as well as, and it is the integral part of the modern administrative system. Then public administration is the management of public resources and services. It encompasses a wide range of activities from the provision of essential services like bureaucracy, like education, like healthcare system, like courts and police and jail and legislature, judiciary, all those things. So everywhere we find example of this public administration, and it is also concerned with infrastructure to the regulation of industries and the implementation of public policies. It also refers to the system of governance, law administration, economic management, and public welfare, the policies for the sake of public. We often hear the term like public places or the public institutions. So wherever we find the word public, that refers to the public administration. And here it comes in the just this premise of public administration. So it developed across different historical phases from the Vedic period to the Mauryan and Guptan Empire to the colonial India. So here we find the traces of public administration in ancient India. If you just have a look on your screen, you find the two pictures here, two images are. One refers to, the first image refers to the Ashoka's rock edict, and another is the national, that is called the national emblem. It was the Ashokan emblem during his time, Ashoka edicts and royal emblem at Sarnath. Then we may just discuss here that hierarchical and centralized way, highly organized, featuring a clear hierarchy from the king or emperor down to village level official. This was the hierarchy of public administration in ancient India. Then we find the role of the king. He was the head of the state, responsible for law and order, protection and the welfare of the subjects. Bureaucratic structure, a system of ministries and department existed for revenue, treasury, mining, and other functions, each headed by specific officials. Then personnel management, there were clear systems for recruitment, pay, and accountability, with a division of labor between specialist and generalist personnel. Then local self-government, villages formed the basic unit with the administration handled by headmen and village assemblies or panchayats. And then there was a focus on public welfare. Despite being autocratic, the administration aimed at public welfare. There was a concept, an idea of the welfare state. That's why in the very beginning I showed you these two images. One is the Ashokan rock edict, another is the national emblem uh, that has been extracted from the Ashokan edict. So on the pillars and on various places, Ashoka inscribed on a stone the his policies for public welfare, and sometimes the sermons of the Buddhism, and sometimes those instructions to the officials which were in favor of just and welfare society. So, in ancient India, Ashoka may be considered as one of the precursors of public administration for general welfare or a welfare state. And these traces are found in Kautilya's Arthashastra that was also implemented during Mauryan period before Ashoka's, like during the time of Chandragupta Maurya, and then his successors from Ashoka to some other people. Then, despite being autocratic, we have already discussed, it was the administration which aimed at the public welfare, and it includes the task like maintaining law and order and collecting revenue fairly. What were the major characteristics? So, of public administration in ancient India, obviously, public administration in ancient India was organized, ethical, welfare oriented, and rooted in the principle of dharma. Here, dharma literally means a state where justice prevails and where there's no discrimination, and all the officials, including the king and the general public, they are very much aware about their obligations, about their duties, about their responsibilities towards the state, towards society, towards other citizens, and they were all aware. If they are not aware, then there were the instructions, various ways of instructions, so that they may consider themselves an ideal citizen in a welfare state. So it was the mechanism there to make the general public aware. Nowadays, we also talk about the citizenship education. So that was already there in ancient India, and we find those traces even in the Arthashastra and various other sources. It evolved into a scientific system of governance with clear administrative machinery, legal structure, economic management, and local self-government. It also deals to influence modern public administration in India. We also find the traces from the past, and we find the many models in modern India are also based on the Kautilya's Arthashastra, as well as some other resources in ancient India, and even from medieval India, Delhi Sultanate and Mughal period also followed some of the patterns of public administration from ancient India. Various sources indicates these features across the ancient India from north to south. Mahajanpada period in North India to Chola administration in South India, various unique features of administration were observed. We find that urbanization started in Mahajanpad period, and we find the finest example of village administration, Panchayati Raj, in Chola administration in South India during the period of Rajendra Chol and Kulutun, Parantak. These were the very famous emperors in South India. So we will also discuss in forthcoming slides here. You see, administration in key historical phases. You know that the Mahajanpad period belongs to the 6th century BC. That was the period of Mahatma Buddha. And at the same time, you see Mauryan Empire just after the Mahajanpad, when Magad emerged as one of the strongest kingdom, and it became India became a united empire in the leadership of Chandragupta Maurya, supervised by Kautilya or Chanakya. So in that perspective, we see that Mahajanpadas period from 600 to 300 BC, rise of 16 Mahajanpadas. On your screen, there is a map you may see. And here the 16 Mahajanpadas are also visible on the map of India. And in the next map and another map, you may see the Mauryan Empire, where all the red part was under the jurisdiction of Chandragupta Maurya. He ruled, he united India from north to south, except some part of the South India. All was in the you see the empire of Mauryan Rajvansh or Mauryan kingdom. Then you see emergence of the Gana Sanghas, republics such as the Lichavis, because out of the 16 Mahajanpadas, some also emerged as the republics. That is known as the Gana Sanghas. We will discuss it in the next lecture where we will discuss the local administration. Some sources are very important from where we get this information about public administration in ancient India. One of the prominent sources is Buddhist and Jain texts like Jatakas and canons in Pali and Prakrit. And then one of the most important sources is Panini's Ashtadhyayi, where we find some traces of 16 Mahajanpadas and local administration. And then about the Mauryan administration that started in 3rd century to 1st century BC. Centralized empire system under Chandragupta Maurya and Ashoka. These were the two prominent emperors. And key sources of the Mauryan administration we find from the Arthashastra, Kautilya, because Kautilya was the minister, the chief minister, prime minister to Chandragupta Maurya. And indeed, he was the person behind the establishment of this vast empire. Then Ashokan edicts, what we just saw in the previous slide, the rock edicts of Ashoka, actually they were deciphered very recently by the James Prinsep in India during 19th century. And then we came to know about this great king, Ashoka the Great, and his rock edicts are available all over India, in different parts of India, every nook and corner, where Ashoka inscribed his sermons of Buddhism as well as his instructions for the welfare state, as we have just discussed. So these are also the very important sources of public administration in ancient India. Then another more important source is the Megasthenes Indica. We have already discussed about it. He was a Greek ambassador to the court of Chandragupta Maurya. And when Chandragupta Maurya became the emperor of India, the very first battle what he experienced with the Seleucus, the minister of Sikandar, that is, and then Alexander, and then he was defeated. Seleucus was defeated, obviously, but Chandragupta Maurya just proposed a policy of matrimonial alliance as well as the cultural relations between Greece and India. And here started the first international relations based on the culture and social and cultural exchange also. And one matrimonial alliance was there, that Helena, the daughter of Seleucus, was married to Chandragupta Maurya. So the ambassador was of Greece ambassador was sent to the court of Chandragupta Maurya, and he was Megasthenes. He also described in his book Indica about that time administration and system and welfare state and all the victories and all the systems, political system, social system during the Mauryan period. So this is also one of the very important sources, Megasthenes Indica. It is just parallel or contemporary to the Kautilya's Arthashastra. And another aspect of historical phases comes from the Guptan administration during 3rd century Christian era. This is in the AD. Here we find the prominent source of Guptan administration we find in the Prashasti from Allahabad, where on the Ashokan edict, pillar edict, one Prashasti or one eulogy was inscribed by Harisher, the court poet of Samudragupta. Samudragupta was also another very great king of Guptan Empire. So more decentralized, feudal-like structure, system of samantas, feudal lords and provincial bhuktis. The states were known as the bhuktis and districts were known as the Vishayas, as we find that this term also during the Mahajanpadas and Mauryan periods, that Vishayas were called as the districts, and here bhuktis are the states or the provinces. So all such terms are very popular during Guptan administration. The Samanta or the feudal lord system, here it is emerging during Guptan period, and we find in the later colonial period and in the medieval period that how Samanta system or the feudal lord system affected the socio-cultural and political fabric of Indian society. Key sources of Guptan administration are basically Allahabad pillar inscription, that is Harishen's Prayag Prashasti. On your screen, there is a picture, the upper picture where you can see. And another is the Junagadh rock inscription. We find the administrative measures during famine and crisis. So it was also the way of administrating the officials and the society or the subjects during the time of crisis, how a king used to communicate with the people. So these were the methods and mechanism to communicate. Like today's, there were no technology at that time, but whatever intelligence was available at that time, that was utilized, and Samgupta utilized to use the methods of Ashoka, the inscription on the rocks and inscriptions on the pillars. So that was the prominent way at that time to communicate with the public. And then Puranas. In Puranas, also in Vishnu Puran and in Markandeya Puran and so many other, there are 18 Puranas books. We also find the names of some of the kings of Guptan period. Then Faiyan's travel accounts. Faiyan was a Chinese traveler who visited India during his time, and he during his visit to India, he also gives the accounts of Guptan administration. Nitisar by Kamandak, and we find that this is one of the finest books written during that time. Then Mudra Rakshas by Vishaka Datta. This is a play in Sanskrit. And then Junagadh rock inscription by Skandgupta. And then Udaygiri caves are also describe the Guptan administration of that time. Then Nalanda University, obviously, that was one of the grandest university established during that period. And here we find the Chola administration, the third phase in the history, 9th century to 13th century Christian era in South India. It is known for developing one of the most advanced systems of local self-government in Indian history. We find for the first time the Panchayati Raj or the local administration in the Chola administration system. And we find here, you see on your table, you may have a glimpse of the sources and examples are there. Inscriptions, Uttar Merur inscription is very important. Thanjavur inscriptions or the Leiden plates. And you see that what they reveal, basically Uttar Merur Abhilekh or Uttar Merur inscription is very important source of Chola administration regarding Panchayati Raj. It deals with the rules for villages, village administration, taxation, tax system, local councils, elections of the Panchayati officials, etc. And temple records are also, because in South India, temples were the centers of education as well as centers of political activities too. And they used to keep the records. Chola temple donations, land grants, endowments, registers, they all tell you the welfare state, the traces of welfare state, economic system, role of temples as socio-administrative centers. And then in literary sources, we find the Kalinga, you see that Kalinga to Parani and Periya Puranam and Tirukkural and royal charters, etc. So these were the very important books or literary sources. They give the resources, they give the sources of the information regarding kingship, ideals, social organization, administrative ethics, etc. And then certain foreign accounts are also very prominent sources, like writings of Arab traders, Chinese travelers, because that was the 9th century to 13th century. Many Arab travelers and very travelers from Middle East were frequently coming to India as a trader. And then they also visited South India and they gave the records and accounts in their writings. So these are very important sources. Trade network, maritime administration, economic prosperity, etc. all are recorded in the traveler's account. And then archaeology and monuments are another important source, like Brideshwar Temple, Thanjavur, Gangaikot Cholpuram, that was the capital of Cholas. And in Brideshwar Temple, that was constructed by Rajaraj Rajeshwar, the largest one rock temple is there. And the peculiar characteristic of this temple is that the greatest or the largest statue of Nandiji is there in that temple, in the premises of that temple in Thanjavur. So whenever you find time, you just visit in South India and you you may see the grand administration, the traces of grand administration of that time. State-sponsored architecture, temple-centered governance, and you will be astonished to see that how temples played very important role in disseminating education as well as the social awareness about different things. And they were the centers of very important trade-related and commercial activities too, apart from the educational activities. Like we have already discussed that many dance forms were introduced as a part of temple curriculum. Then again, regarding Uttar Meru inscription, just a few words, because since it's very important in South Indian public administration history. The Uttar Meru inscription belongs to 10th century Tamil Nadu. It is a prime source for understanding village self-government under the Cholas. It was issued during the reigns of Parantak first, later reaffirmed under Rajraj I and Rajrajendra II. Significance of the inscription lies in the description how the village councils were elected, their duties and rules of conduct. Then it provides evidence of a democratic and participatory village administration. They also tell such inscriptions or the records on the inscription, they also give us information that administrative expansion, their empire, the Chola Empire, was extended from Kalinga, modern Odisha, to the entire Tamil Pradesh, including Sri Lanka. They also invaded Sri Lanka and included the entire land, including its capital Anuradhapur, in their kingdom. So they were one of the strongest and mightiest emperors, and this was the mightiest empire in South India, who also controlled the Sri Lanka and the entire island into their royal jurisdiction. And they also just ruled there. And sometimes their kingdom was also expanded to the Bengal also for a little time, otherwise in the entire South India. That is visible in the map you see on your screen. The red portion is the Chola Empire. Then Kautilya, coming towards the important topic for today, prime topic, Kautilya or Chanakya, life and works. Kautilya, also known as Chanakya or Vishnugupta, he is one of the most celebrated political thinkers, philosophers, and educationists in ancient Indian history. He was an Acharya. He was a teacher of Takshila University and the chief advisor of Chandragupta Maurya, who belonged to the 4th century BC. So you may have a look of the Takshila University, the world's first and oldest university. Now the remains are there, but it is in the modern Pakistan and Afghanistan border is there. And he wrote Arthashastra, a foundational work on statecraft, administration, and governance. Kautilya represents the culmination of the 3 intellectual traditions, because the legacy of Kautilya lies in his contribution towards the 3 ways of administration and intellectual traditions. One is the Niti Shastra, that is science of polity. Another is Arthashastra, that is science of economics and governance, particularly public administration. And Dharma Shastra, that is law and ethics. So he presented a blend of a combination of his intelligence in these 3 areas. And he is so popular image, he is so stalwart image in Indian intellectual history that in many ways you find his records, his presence in literature, his presence in TV serials, his presence in films, and also the contemporary plays also mention Chanakya in written by Kalidas, even written by Shudrak, written by some other plays in the later period. They also mention the name of Chanakya. And you see that in modern India, after independence, that Amar Chitra Katha is one of the very prominent publications through which we also come to know a major portion of Indian intellectual traditions, Indian history, culture, society, politics also. So it also published 1 volume on Chanakya. The image is on your screen. He integrated them into a pragmatic philosophy of state and society. Then regarding the Kautilya's life and works, we find that Kautilya was born around the 4th century, traditionally identified with the names Chanakya, his Gotra name, and Vishnugupta, his personal name. Why he is called the Kautilya? Because it is derived from his ancestral lineage that is called Gotra in Indian tradition, Kutila. This is the Gotra name, that's why he is known by this name also. Otherwise, the original name is the Vishnugupta, Pandit Vishnugupta. And a profound scholar of politics, economics, Vedic studies, logic, and law, educated and worked at Takshila University. So, in ancient India, because the tradition of knowledge was basically some the privilege to some people, privilege in the sense that they were entitled to get knowledge by their devotion, by their submission towards knowledge, not just by their caste, as was this was not the provision. The casteism was not the provision in ancient India during the Vedic period, but it is an outcome of the later Vedic period, obviously, when society emerged in the society, just some stratification emerged in the society, then casteism emerged. But in the very beginning, you see that the Varna Vyavastha says that Brahmins are entitled to impart the knowledge to the society. So they used to acquire it by their rigorous efforts and by their submission and so on. So Pandit is a word which is used for a person who has devoted his life entirely for the sake of education. In that sense, he is also called the Pandit. And also Brahmins who has acquired the knowledge of the Brahm. So he was in true sense intelligent personality as well as a person of various dimensions of knowledge like Vedic studies, logic and law, educated and worked at Takshila University as a teacher. And his association with the modern empire is renowned for overthrowing the Nalanda dynasty and installing Chandragupta Maurya on the throne. The story is very popular that how Mahapadam Nand of the Nanda dynasty was so arrogant that people were also very much tired of his ruling, tyrannical rule. And in one of the stories, as mentioned by various sources, we find that he was insulted in the court of Mahapadam Nand, and at the same time, he just opened his ears and then he took the oath that I will destroy this rule of tyranny and then I will establish another kingdom. Then he searched Chandragupta Maurya as a boy and he trained and he prepared what we find in the form of Chandragupta Maurya, the emperor who united the entire India after Nanda dynasty. So this story is available from various sources. Foundation of the Mauryan Empire in the 3rd century. As the chief advisor and minister, he guided political, military and economic policies. His period is placed around 350 to 275 BC, making the transition from Mahajanpadas to imperial India. Then sources of his thought and works we find. Basically, his thoughts are preserved primarily in Arthashastra. References to him are also found in other ancient Indian texts. Other sources referring to Kautilya like Mudra Rakshas, as we just mentioned, by Vishakdatta, a Sanskrit drama depicting Kautilya's political genius in insulting Chandragupta Maurya. Here we find, installing Chandragupta Maurya, here we find that story, what I am just giving you. Then Mahavansha, a Pali chronicle of Sri Lanka. Mahavansha and Deepvansha are the two great books which provide us the Sri Lankan sources of Buddhism, and it also mentions the name of Chanakya. And then Puranas and Buddhist texts, some Jataka tales and Maha Umagga Jataka and Puranic accounts refer to as statesmen as intellectual acumen. Then commentaries and later Niti Shastra texts such as the Kamandaka's Niti Shastra, which drew inspiration from Kautilya's ideas, because Kamandaka was a writer in the later period and he was also very much inspired and motivated by Kautilya's work. So he also mentioned his name in his Niti Sar. Then we find what our Shastra is really about. What is that content? The Arthashastra is a comprehensive treatise on public administration. It deals with Rajaniti, that is state policy, Arthaniti, that is economics, Dandaniti, that is administration and justice. It contains 15 books, that is called Adhikaran, and 150 chapters, that is called Adhyayas, and around 6,000 shlokas of the statements. Major themes what Kautilya's Arthashastra covers: theory of state and kingship, duties of the king and council of ministers, law, justice and civil administration, then economy, taxation and trade regulation, then espionage and diplomacy, and war, defense and foreign policy, then education, ethics and social order and so on. What is the idea of welfare state according to Arthashastra? That is called the Yoga Kshema. Yoga refers to Ascendance of resources, that is the distribution of resources. Shema denotes the utilization of resources for the well-being of the people. So resources is for the public, for the utilization of the public. So it is the duty of the king that how the resources are to be utilized in such a way that public may get the benefit. The theory of socialism came long after, but Kautilya here is giving the state the idea of welfare state. A state is comprised of 7 elements. A state is comprised of Swami, that is king, Amatya, minister, Kosha, treasury, Janpada, district, Durga, that is fort, and Mitra, that is allies, Danda, that is punishment. So objective of a state is the happiness of the people, prosperity of the people is essential for the well-being of the state. King gets more taxes from the wealthy subjects. Yogakshema is both moral and material development of the peoples. Then what are the qualities of king that is described? I am just taking some gist of Arthashastra. I am not dealing it in detail. I am just trying to introduce Arthashastra and Kautilya. Then within this short span of time, you may go through the book. I have given you the reference, and then you may read as per your choice. For Kautilya, King Swami is head of the state. He should have complete knowledge of Vedas or Shastras and Dandit. These are the qualities and requirements to be a king. He should also be master in techniques of statecraft. He should have highest quality of leadership and should possess intellect, energy. The king should be truthful, resolute, enthusiastic, disciplined, and should possess lofty aims. He should be free from vices. And a ruler should have the following abilities. So, Kautilya mentions the 3 abilities of a king: ability to win heart of people, inspire and patience. Then intellectual abilities to learn, understand and discuss. The terms are also on your screen, what he uses. And the third quality is Shagun, that is which includes acts of bravery, quickness of decision, and that making for welfare of all. Then 6 principles of diplomacy, what is very famous on the part of our Shastra. The king should apply following measures to strengthen the power of a state and defend its existing frontiers. One is the Sandhi, that is peace. It is accommodation or convergence of interest on any issue among different states. It stands for policy of peace. Another is the Vigrah, that is hostility. It means pursuing hostile foreign policy towards a state. Then Yana, that is mobilization of army. Then Asan, that is sitting quietly and consideration over various options during the peace time. Then Samsarya, that is it is a policy of protection. Weak state seeks protection of a strong state. So these are the ways how diplomacy can be established, and Arthashastra is suggesting it as a part of public administration. Then last one is that Veda Vibhava, that is it means pursuing dual strategy, foreign policy of allying with one state and enmity with another state. So these are the principles even modern states also follow, the extract from Arthashastra. And 4 strategies of diplomacy, these are the one of the very famous, one of the very popular takeaway from Arthashastra, that is Sama, conciliation. This is a policy of conciliation which can be adopted in dealing with a stronger king. Then another is the Dam, concession. It is a policy of appeasing a stronger king. And then third one is the Danda, use of force. This policy can be used against weaker states in order to coerce them. And then fourth one is the Bhed, divide and rule, promoting internal diversions within the states. So all varieties of diplomatic strategies are there in Arthashastra. If whatever is suitable to the state, a king may apply it. Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. This niti is very popular even in modern states. Almost all the words, all the diplomatic countries and their diplomatic policies, they follow these policies. Then Mandal theory is very famous. This is something, Mandal is a group of states. The Mandal is hypothetical concept. It's not the real concept, actually the hypothetical. He just conceptualized that king is at the center and all other, there are the circles. In and around, there are other states. So how to establish the relation that is beneficial for the state. So these principles are suggested to the king by Kautilya. This is called the Mandal theory, in which there are circles of friends and foes. For example, we can take the instance, the potential conqueror king. Kautilya calls a king Jikshu, the king occupies central position in the circle, and Ari, the immediate neighbor of the king, who is his enemy, and Mitra, the next neighbor to Ari or enemy. The enemy's neighbor is king's friend. These are the policies what we find in Kautilya's Arthashastra, and many of the modern states take the benefit from this Mandal theory. Then again, regarding the administration, Kautilya identifies 5 elements of good administration: the appropriate means to start undertakings, the excellence of men and materials, allocation of place and time, provision against failure, and accomplishment of work. Fear, duty, and interest are important motives behind the act of obedience to the orders of an administrator. Then good governance is only possible with the cooperation of the people as well as of the bureaucracy. 18 tirthas of good governance, Kautilya suggests: minister, priest, commander of army. So these are the officials, name of the officials, we find them. And Kautilya's training mechanism would include that education, according to Kautilya, was essential for developing a ruler's wisdom and more discipline. The training of princes and administrators emphasized the Vedas and Dharmashastras, ethical and moral foundation. Then Anvikshiki, the knowledge of logic and philosophy. And then Varta, economics and agriculture for practical governance. Then Dandaniti, policy, polity and law for administrative justice. Thus, this curriculum aligns with the holistic Gurukul system and represents an advanced form of politico-administrative education. So, Kautilya's special role in Indian knowledge traditions is he is known for the integration of knowledge streams. Kautilya synthesized diverse disciplines like philosophy, economics, law, and administration into a unified science of human welfare. Then his works exemplifies interdisciplinary knowledge, hallmark of classical Indian scholarship. Then contribution to political and economic thought, like Indian tradition of political realism, parallel to the later Western thinkers like Machiavelli, and he's known for his Prince. Then again, systematization of administrative sciences, Kautilya institutionalized scientific administration. Then educational and pedagogical values, Nyaya and logic traditions, Anvikshiki, that is the critical reasoning, as the foundation of all knowledge. And he also emphasized the character education, discipline, and applied learning, principally code in later Indian educational thought. Then legacy and relevance regarding his works influenced later Indian kings and policy thinkers during the Guptan period, Delhi Sultanates, and even the Mughal periods also followed some of his traces. His principles of economics, governance, and diplomacy are studied in management, political science, and strategic studies. So, to conclude today's discussion, public administration in ancient India was based on dharma and welfare of the people. Kautilya's Arthashastra provided a scientific and highly organized administrative system. Other sources added ethical, cultural, and local governance practices. The system balanced a strong central authority with village self-rule, and then overall governance was ethical, people-centered, and systematically structured. So that's all for today. Thank you for listening. See you in the next lecture. I'm leaving you with these beautiful words of Albert Einstein. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is a stupid. Thank you very much. God bless you.